going to be learning how to write the equation of hyperbola. The only difference is the center is no longer the origin. See how this hyperbola has moved right and down? Remember, the center is always where the asymptote lines intersect each other. So that's your center this time. Okay, so you're using the same equations, but this time it won't just be x squared on top and y squared. It'll actually have a number filled in for h and a number filled in for k. The reason they didn't yesterday and the day before is because h and k were always 0, and so you just didn't write them. But today you're going to have a number for h and k because the center is no longer at the origin. Okay, the first thing we need to do to write the equation for the hyperbola is to identify whether we're dealing with a horizontal or a vertical hyperbola. What is this one? That one's definitely horizontal because I can see that it's opening right and left, and those are horizontal directions. Once you've established that it's horizontal, that lets you know what? Right, you use the equation that starts with x minus h. So x minus h squared, and then minus, remember with hyperbolas it's minus in the middle. With ellipses it was a plus in the middle. Y minus k squared equals 1, and then this one's always over a squared, and then always over b squared. Okay? With hyperbolas, it's the x minus h and the y minus k that swap places. The a and b stay put no matter what kind it is. Okay, well, to be able to write that equation, what do you have to know? The h and the k, which is your center, and this time the center is where? 2, negative 1 though. Okay, so your h is 2, your k is negative 1. What else do you have to know? Your a and b. Okay, well for this one, isn't a up under x? So that means your a distance is horizontal. So from the center to where the hyperbola's vertex is how many units? 4. And then b is under the y. So this time b is a vertical distance from the center to the top box, or you could go from the center down to the box. It's the same. And how many units is that? 3. So that's your a and your b. Now that we know h, k, a, and b, we're ready to plug into the equation. So, x minus h, that would be x minus 2, squared, minus y minus k. Well, what happens when you do a minus a negative 1? Plus 1 squared, and then equals 1. And now the x will be over 16, because 4 squared is 16, and the y plus 1 will be over 9. So there's your equation for this hyperbola. X minus 2 squared over 16 minus y plus 1 squared over 9 equals 1. Now we need to do the slopes. Remember, we're doing the slopes of the asymptote lines. Well, how many asymptote lines do you see? 2. We have this one that's going up from left to right, and we have this asymptote line that's going down from left to right. So that's why we always put a plus or minus to represent the positive line and to represent the negative line. Now I know when I do my slope, it's always going to have these two numbers in it. It's either going to be 4 over 3 or 3 over 4. If you can think of a good way to remember that horizontal is always the b value over the a value, go ahead, figure out a way to remember it. But I have trouble myself remember which one's b over a, which one's a over b, because it's just one more thing to remember. So I just count it out. To get from the center up to this top corner of the box, how many do you rise? 3. And how many do you run? So the slope is 3 over 4. So if you can't remember that horizontal is b over a, just count it out. Count the rise over run. Okay, now we have to learn foci. The foci formula for hyperbolas is c squared equals a squared plus b squared. Well, that would become c squared equals 16 plus 9, and that would become c squared equals 25, and then to solve for c, what do you do? Square root both sides, and so your c value is 5. this one's nice whole number. Okay, so to plot your foci points, you're going to go 5 units, but which way? Left and right, because we're dealing with a horizontal. And think about it. When we go 5 units right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See how it's like the parabola eating the foci point, like they should? And then if we go 5 left, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 this way. Okay, now we need to write the coordinates of those 2 points. Okay, well, to get to this one over here, how many units do you have to go to the right? 7. It's over at 7 and down 1, so 7, negative 1. And to get to this point over here, you have to go left 3 and down 1, so negative 3, negative 1. Okay, let's try example 2. Are y'all done copying? Okay, example 2. Are we dealing with a horizontal or vertical hyperbola? This time vertical. And once you have identified the type it is, that tells you what right away? The y comes first. So we're dealing with the equation y minus k squared over a squared minus x minus h squared over b squared equals 1. Okay, well, to be able to finish out that equation with all of the necessary information, what all do you have to know? Okay, h and k is found at the what of the hyperbola? The center. Well, this time, isn't the center right there where the asymptote lines crossed? And where is that located? Negative 4, positive 3? Okay, and then a this time is up under the y. So this time a is your vertical distance. So from here up to the vertex is how many units? 5. Okay, so a is 5. And then b is your horizontal distance this time because it's under x. So from the center to either side of the box, it doesn't matter which way you go, how many units is it? 7. Okay, so now we're ready to fill in everything we have into the h, k, a, and b. Alright, so y minus no, it's y minus k. What's the k value? 3. And then squared minus x minus negative 4, so that would become a plus 4 squared equals 1. And a squared on bottom becomes, and the y squared, or b squared becomes 49. So there's your equation. Now remember with the slopes, it's always plus or minus. And everybody understands why, correct? Because you have a positive asymptote line and you have a negative asymptote line. So it represents 2 different lines. The slope will always be these 2 numbers. You just have to decide which one's the rise, which one's the run. Correct. You have to rise 5 and run 7 to land back on the line. So 5 over 7. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Now for foci points. The foci formula is c squared equals a squared plus b squared. Well, what does a squared become? And what does b squared become? So that becomes, and then you square root it, and what's the square root of 74? 8.6. Okay, but this time when you're plotting the foci, you're going up and down because we're dealing with a vertical hyperbola, and remember we want these parabolas to eat the foci point. So up 8.6 from here would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's off the graph, so just kind of estimate. And then down 8.6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's even hard to do that one because the grids are so terrible. Okay, so since the graph is really bad and this one went off of it, Identifying the coordinates becomes even harder. Okay, but just kind of listen to how I'm going to figure it out. To get to either foci point, you have to go left 4. So doesn't that mean both of them have an x value of -4? Okay, well then, to get up here, think about it. This point was up how many units? 3. And then did we add 8.6 to it? What's 3 plus 8.6 more? 11.6. Okay, to get to this point, you go left 4, and then think about it. Wasn't this, well, this was 3, and did we minus 8.6 from it? So what's 3 minus 8.6? Negative 5.6. 3 minus 8.6 is negative 5.6. And if the graph were better, you would have been able to figure that one out by just looking at it. It's just the graph is terrible. Okay, now turn to the next page, and I want you to try 1 and 2 by yourself. The equation, the slopes, and the foci points. 1. Is this vertical or horizontal? Horizontal. Which lets you know what right away? The x comes first. So we're looking for the equation x minus h squared minus y minus k squared equals 1. And then a squared is always on the left, b squared is always on the right. To be able to fill in that equation, though, you need the h and the k, which is the center, and you need a and b, which are your vertical and horizontal distances from the center to the side and the center up. This time, what is the h and k? -1, -2. To get to the intersection of those asymptotes, which is your center, you go left 1 and down 2. So -1, -2. Now, this time, A is under x, so A is a horizontal distance. Well, the horizontal distance from the center to where the hyperbola begins over here is 2 units, right? And then B would be the vertical distance this time because it's under the y. So up to the box is 1, 2, 3 units. Now we plug it in. X minus h is an x minus a -1, so +1. And then minus y minus k is another minus a negative, so +2. And then over 4 over 9. Now we need to do the slopes. Slopes are plus or minus, is it 2 over 3 or 3 over 2? 3 over 2. Because if you're here and you're trying to get to the top corner, you have to rise 3 and run 2. Okay, now for foci, it's c squared equals a squared, which is 4, plus b squared, which is 9. That becomes 13. And what is the square root of 13? 3.6. Okay, since it's a horizontal hyperbola, you'll be going right and left 3.6 from the center. So 1, 2, 3.6 would be about right there. And then left 3.6, 1, 2, 3.6. And then, of course, you have to write the foci coordinates. Okay, to get to this one, you have to go how many to the right? 2.6, because remember we had to go 0.6. So 2.6 and then down 2. And then to get to this one, we have to go -4.6 and down 2. Any questions?
No.
Okay, number 2. Is this vertical or horizontal?
Vertical.
This time it's vertical because they're opening up and down. And that tells you right away you'll be using the formula that starts with y. So y minus k squared over a squared minus x minus h squared over b squared equals 1. We need to know the h and the k, so we can plug them in. And we need to know the a and the b. Well, this time, where did the center move? negative 1, and then up 2. So negative 1, 2, correct? And then with this equation, A is under Y, so A is your vertical distance. Well, from the center up to where the vertex of the hyperbola is how many units? 2. And then B is under the X, so that's horizontal. And how far is it from the center to the box? 4. Okay, so now we can plug in the equation. So y minus k squared minus x minus negative 1, so plus 1 squared equals 1, and then over 4 and over 16. Now for the slopes, you know it's going to be plus or minus because you have a positive line and a negative line. Is it 2 over 4 or 4 over 2? 2 over 4, and more than likely on your test, they're going to have that reduced to 1/2. Okay, for the foci, it's c squared equals 4 plus 16, because that's a squared plus b squared. That becomes a 20. And what's the square root of 20? 4.5. Okay, but we're dealing with a vertical hyperbola, so you're going to go up and down 4.5 from the center of the hyperbola. So 1, 2, 3, 4.5, and then down 1, 2, 3, 4.5. Sure. Okay, so to get to this point, you have to go where? Left 1 up 6.5. And this foci point is located where? Right, left 1 down 2.5. Okay, go ahead and try 3 and 4. Here we go. Number 3. This one is horizontal. That means that it starts with x minus h. Be quiet, I'm trying to teach. Okay, this time the center is right 1 down 1, so 1 negative 1. Your A value is under your x. Can y'all not hear me teaching? Okay, so that's your horizontal distance. From the center over is 1, 2, 3, 4 units. And then your B distance is under Y, so that's your vertical distance. That's 1, 2, 3 units. So the equation would be x minus 1 squared over 16 minus y minus k, and your k is a negative 1, so that becomes plus 1 squared over 9. Okay, for your slopes, it'll be plus or minus 1, 2, 3 over 4. And then for your foci, it's c squared equals 16 plus 9, which turns out to a nice perfect square of 25. So your c value is 5. And so if you go right 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that one ends up at 6, negative 1. If you go left 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that one ends up at negative 4, negative 1. Okay, number 4. This is a vertical hyperbola because they're opening up and down, which lets you know right away you'll be using the equation where y minus k comes first. Okay, so this time the h and the k are 0, negative 1. Okay, the center just shifted down 1. So your h is 0, your k is negative 1. Your A value is under Y this time. So that's your vertical distance. 1, 2, 3, 4. And your B value is under X this time. So that's horizontal distance. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it'll be Y minus negative 1, which is Y plus 1, bless you, over 16 minus X minus 0 squared, which is just X squared, over 16 equals 1. Your slopes will be plus or minus 4 over 4, which is just 1. And then for your foci, c squared equals 16 plus 16, which is 32. What's the square root of 32? 5.6. It rounds to 7 because it's 5.65. Okay, so if I go up 5.7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.7. So isn't that 0, 4.7? And then if I go down 5.7 from the center of the hyperbola, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.7, and so that's 0, negative 6.7. Okay, listen carefully. I will not be checking this. However, we have a quiz